My name is Henry Lawson. I am 58 years old, and 2 months ago, I found myself standing inside the county courthouse while my own daughter tried to convince a judge that I had Alzheimer's disease. Not a stranger, not a distant relative. My daughter, the same little girl whose hand I held during thunderstorms, who used to fall asleep on my chest after story time, and who once promised I would live with her when I got old. Her lawyer spoke as if I wasn't even in the room. Your Honor, Mr. Lawson is mentally declining at a rapid pace. He forgets appointments, loses important documents, and often becomes confused in familiar places. For his safety, we are asking for emergency authority to manage his property. Property, not me, not my health, not my life. My property. I stood there, clutching the edges of the wooden table, trying to keep my hands from shaking. I kept looking at Lily, my daughter, hoping maybe her eyes would meet mine, hoping I could see even a flicker of doubt. But she stared ahead like someone waiting for a delivery, not the moment her father's entire life could be taken away. Then there was Marcus, her husband. He wore a gray suit sharp enough to cut glass and a smug little smile like he had been waiting for this day. He placed his hand on Lily's shoulder, guiding her every move. He nodded when her lawyer spoke, correcting details, whispering into her ear like a coach feeding lines to an actor. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Lawson, are you aware of the nature of these proceedings?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I had imagined this hearing for weeks, rehearsed 1,000 arguments, sorted memories in my mind like evidence in a file. But standing there, my own child acting like I was a burden to be handled, every word burned in my throat. Finally, I managed to speak. Your Honor, I do not have Alzheimer's. I am not confused. I am not incompetent. I know exactly what is happening here. A few people in the courtroom shifted in their seats. Marcus smirked. Lily kept her eyes on the table. Their lawyer laughed under his breath. Mr. Lawson, with respect, this is exactly the kind of denial consistent with early cognitive decline. I felt my chest tighten. They weren't just lying. They were prepared. They had staged this like a performance. Every word, every expression, every fake display of concern was rehearsed. The judge raised a hand. Do you have any medical documentation to support your claim of being mentally fit? That was the moment I realized the truth. They thought I was alone. They thought they had already won. I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could speak, the courtroom doors swung open. Steps echoed through the silent room. Every head turned. A woman in a white coat walked forward holding a thick folder and a set of brain scan reports. Her voice cut through the air with a confidence that made Marcus drop his smile. Your Honor, did anyone bother mentioning that Mr. Lawson is not suffering from Alzheimer's? In fact, his cognitive scores place him in the 99th percentile. He is a certified genius. The entire courtroom went silent. Lily's hands froze. Marcus's face drained of color. And for the first time in months, I finally felt my heart breathe again. Before we start, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Before everything fell apart, my life was simple, predictable, comfortable in the way a quiet Tuesday morning feels when the sun is warm, the coffee smells rich, and nothing hurts. I lived in the same house my late wife Charlotte and I built together 30 years ago. A small blue 2-story place on Maple Ridge Road, with shutters she insisted had to be sunflower yellow because happiness belongs on the outside too. When Charlotte died 6 years ago, the colors faded a little. The house felt too big for one man, but I kept it alive the way she would have wanted. I trimmed the rose bushes she planted, repainted the fence, fixed the loose porch steps. People in town always waved when they drove by. They remembered me as Mr. Lawson, the history teacher, the man who told stories instead of lectures. Even retired, I still volunteered twice a week at the public library, helping kids with homework and reading programs. I liked feeling useful. My daughter, Lily, used to visit every Sunday. She would bring cinnamon rolls, sit at the table barefoot like she did when she was a teenager, and tell me about her job at the vet clinic. She had my wife's gentle voice, soft but full of steel when she needed it. We were close. She was my only child, my friend, the last living piece of Charlotte. Then she met Marcus Cooper. At first, I welcomed him with open arms. He was polite and charming, the kind of man who shakes your hand with both of his, looks right into your eyes, and says all the right things. He sold houses for a living, wore polished shoes, never had a hair out of place, and called me Pop, like we were already family. We spent summers grilling in the backyard. Marcus would help me fix things around the house. When my roof needed repair, he climbed up there himself and said, "Pop, you've done enough hard work in your life. Let the younger backs handle it." It felt like gaining a son I never had. Birthdays, holidays, Father's Day, they always showed up. There were pictures of us on the mantel. Lily hugging me, Marcus with his arm over my shoulder. At Christmas, Marcus gave me a brand new fishing rod. I remember telling people how lucky I was. A good daughter, a good son-in-law, family that cared. Looking back, it feels almost cruel how peaceful those days were. I had no idea that those family dinners, those warm smiles, those kind gestures, were slowly setting the stage for something colder than winter itself. But at the time, I saw none of it. I trusted them the way a father trusts his child, without question and without fear. Life felt heavy sometimes without my wife, but Lily made sure I was never alone. She would say, "Dad, you're stuck with me forever." I believed her. On warm afternoons, I sat on the porch rocking in the same wooden chair Charlotte picked out from a thrift store. Birds sang in the maple trees, kids rode bikes down the street. I'd sip iced tea and think, life may not be perfect, but it's peaceful. In my mind, nothing could ever shake the foundation of my family. But foundations crack quietly, and betrayal, I learned later, never announces itself. It walks into your life wearing a smile. The first sign that something was wrong did not arrive like thunder. It came quietly, disguised as a small, forgettable moment that most people would have ignored. I certainly tried to. It was a Friday morning, the kind where the sunlight slips through the curtains just right. I had a dentist appointment at 10. I wrote it on my calendar, set a reminder on my phone, and even placed the appointment card on the refrigerator door. I left early, humming an old song Charlotte used to love, feeling proud of myself for being on time. When I reached the clinic, the receptionist gave me a strange look. "Mr. Lawson, your appointment was yesterday." I blinked. "Are you sure?" She turned the monitor so I could see it. My name, the date, the slot. Clearly yesterday. I apologized, embarrassed. I walked back to my truck feeling a little ridiculous. It was a small mistake, the kind everyone makes eventually, but it stuck in my mind like a splinter. I had never mixed up dates before. I brushed it off and told myself to be more careful. That evening, Lily and Marcus came over for dinner. I decided to laugh about my mix-up. "Guess who showed up at the dentist a whole day late?" I said while peeling potatoes. Lily chuckled gently, but Marcus burst into loud laughter. "Getting forgetful, Pop? Should we start writing everything down for you?" The joke stung, but I smiled and said, "It happens to everyone." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "Slipping memory is one of the first signs, you know." I asked, "Signs of what?" He shrugged. "Old age. My grandfather forgot his own street name once. Family had to step in before someone took advantage of him. Lily told him to stop, but he just winked at her. I forced myself to laugh with them. Inside, something tightened. 2 weeks later, I misplaced my mailbox key. I tore the kitchen apart looking for it. When I finally found it in my jacket pocket, I sat down and rubbed my forehead. I was tired. That was all. Everyone loses keys sometimes. But when I told Lily, trying to make light of it, she didn't laugh. Instead, she exchanged a glance with Marcus. He stepped closer to me, slow and deliberate, like he was approaching a scared animal. "Pop, do you ever feel confused? Like you forget where you are or what you're doing?" The question made my stomach twist. "No, I just misplaced a key." He gave a slow nod. "It might be nothing, but we should keep an eye out." An eye out? For what? A few days later, I caught Marcus whispering to Lily in the living room. "He needs supervision," he said in a low voice. Lily shook her head. "He's fine. He just needs help with things sometimes." Marcus responded firmly. "You are in denial. If he gets worse, it will be on us." When I stepped into the hallway, they went silent. Marcus changed the subject so fast, it was clumsy. My heart pounded, but I ignored it. I told myself they were worried about me because they cared. That is what a father is supposed to believe. Still, the air around them felt different. Soft things became sharp. Light jokes turned into evaluations. Every time I forgot where my glasses were, every time I stumbled over a word, I could feel Marcus watching. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself families worry. I told myself there was no reason to be suspicious. That was the last week I slept without fear. The shift did not happen all at once. It came in small pieces, like paint chipping quietly off a wall, until one day you realize the whole thing looks old and broken. Marcus grew bolder. It started with the way he spoke to me. I would be sitting at the dining table, reading the newspaper, when he would lean down, slow and exaggerated, and say, "Do you understand this part, Pop? Want me to explain it?" I told him I was reading perfectly fine. He smiled like that answer confirmed something in his mind. One evening, they invited neighbors over for dinner. Good people. I had known them for years. Halfway through the meal, Marcus slapped his hand on the table and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Pop, that story you're telling, you already told us that last week. Remember?" His tone was light, joking, but his eyes held something sharper. The table fell awkwardly silent. I felt my face flush. Maybe I had told that story before. People repeat things sometimes. Still, the neighbors shifted uncomfortably, offering tight smiles. Lily placed her hand on my arm and whispered, "It's okay, Dad." But it didn't feel okay. After that, Marcus began speaking for me. At restaurants, he ordered my meals without asking. At doctor's appointments, he answered questions while I sat right there. If I tried to speak, he would gently interrupt, saying, "He gets overwhelmed. Let me handle it." The worst part was how subtle it was, like I was being erased strand by strand. One morning, I woke up and found all the bills, bank statements, and personal documents moved out of my home office. When I asked where everything went, Marcus said, "You accidentally threw away the water bill last month. I needed to organize your paperwork so nothing gets lost." I had no memory of throwing anything out. The idea that I might be forgetting things scared me, which made his words stick deeper. Lily's behavior changed too. She started correcting me mid-sentence. "Dad, that didn't happen on Monday. It was Sunday." "No, Dad, you paid the electric bill last month. You forgot." "It's okay. Everyone gets confused sometimes." It was like their voices became the mirror I was forced to look into, and the reflection in it looked weaker every day. Late at night, I sat alone in my house and asked myself, what if they are right? What if something is happening to me? Once I tried to talk to Lily privately. "Sweetheart, do you think I'm slipping? Be honest." Her eyes filled with uncomfortable pity. "Dad, I love you. Marcus just wants to make sure you're safe." Safe. The word felt like a cage. Every small mistake I made became evidence that something was wrong with me. Every hesitation became a symptom. One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen to find Marcus staring at my pill organizer. He held it up. "You missed Monday and Tuesday." "No, I didn't." He shook his head. "You did. Look." The truth was, I could not remember if I did or not, but I felt something inside me sink. If I doubted myself, how could I prove anything to anyone else? I started keeping notes on everything. What time I woke up, when I took my medication, when I paid bills. I wrote it on scraps of paper and hid them in drawers because some part of me felt ashamed of needing proof of my own mind. It happened slowly, but one day I looked in the mirror and saw a man who was starting to believe their version of me. A man shrinking inside his own life. That was the true beginning of the erosion. Not the day they accused me, not the day they laughed. The day I began questioning myself. The moment that finally shattered whatever pride I had left happened on a quiet Saturday afternoon. I was in the local grocery store, the same one I had been shopping at for 20 years. I knew every aisle, every cashier, every familiar face. It was a place where I always felt steady, like I belonged there. I picked up bread, coffee, milk, and a few apples. Simple things. I had written a list and checked off each item carefully. I even double-checked that I had my wallet before I left the house because lately I kept trying to prove to myself that I was still sharp. As I approached the checkout line, I saw Marcus standing by the produce section. He was talking to a neighbor named Teresa, smiling like he was the most charming man on earth. I waved. He waved back and started walking toward me. Everything was fine until the cashier scanned my groceries and I inserted my card. A red error message flashed on the screen. "Card declined," the cashier said softly. "Would you like to try again?" My chest tightened. "That can't be right. Run it again, please." She did. Same message. People behind me started shifting in line. Marcus stepped closer, loud enough for everyone to hear. "It's okay, folks. He forgets things sometimes. He gets his cards mixed up." I froze. The cashier's eyes softened with pity. The man behind me sighed and glanced away. I reached into my wallet and pulled out another card, hands shaking. That one declined, too. Marcus tapped my shoulder like he was comforting a child. "Pop, you gave me those cards last week, remember? You said you didn't want to handle bills anymore?" His voice was gentle, but the words cut deep. The cashier looked confused. "Is there someone we can call for payment?" My voice came out tight. "I can pay. I know I can pay." Then Marcus pulled out his own wallet, slid a card across the counter, and said, "Just ring it up. He gets overwhelmed in public." People started whispering. Someone behind us said, "Poor old guy." I wanted to shout that I was not overwhelmed. I wanted to explain that I never gave Marcus anything. I wanted to prove that my mind was still working. But nothing came out. My throat felt locked, and my face burned. The cashier bagged the groceries slowly, like she was afraid I might break. Marcus placed a hand on my back and guided me toward the exit. Once outside, I stopped. "Why did you do that? Why would you say those things about me?" Marcus sighed dramatically, looking around as if worried someone might overhear. "I am trying to protect you. You forget things. You lose things. You mix up dates and cards. Someone has to look out for you." I shook my head. "I never gave you my cards." He smiled calmly. "Yes, you did. You handed me both cards and said, 'Marcus, you take care of it.' Do you really not remember?" His voice was soft, sympathetic, confident, but every word felt like a hammer cracking my sanity. When I got home, I checked my wallet again. Both cards were gone. Only the grocery receipt was left, tucked beside the empty slots. I sat at the kitchen table, listening to the clock tick against the wall. I tried to remember whether I had given him those cards. I tried to picture it. I tried to replay the moment. Nothing came. Not because I forgot, but because it never happened. Yet I sat there feeling like the ground under me was tilting. If I could not prove it, then my truth did not matter. People had heard him. They believed him. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe the entire town saw me as a man falling apart. That humiliation stayed with me. It was not just about groceries. It was the moment I realized Marcus was not just quietly undermining me in the house. He was painting a public picture of who I was. And people were starting to believe it. I did not know it then, but that grocery store humiliation was the first brick in the trap he was building around me. A trap made of small lies spoken confidently, while I struggled to defend the one thing no one should ever lose: my dignity. After the grocery store humiliation, something inside me cracked, though I did not show it. I tried to go back to life the way it was, watering my garden, reading in my chair, cooking simple meals. But I started noticing things changing around the house. Subtle, but unmistakable. One morning, I woke to the sound of keys turning in my front door. Marcus and Lily walked in without knocking. They were carrying storage bins and cardboard boxes. I stood in the hallway, barefoot, still half asleep. "What are you doing?" I asked. Lily walked toward me with a soft, practiced voice. "Dad, we need to talk. You cannot keep living alone. It is not safe anymore. You almost burned the kitchen last month." "That never happened," I said. Marcus opened a cabinet and pulled out a scorched saucepan. "Yes, it did. The neighbor saw smoke coming out of your window and called us. Remember?" "No neighbor ever said such a thing. No smoke, no fire." But how could I prove a fire I knew did not exist? Lily stepped closer and touched my arm. "We love you. We are not trying to upset you. We want you with us. You will have your own room, your own bathroom. I will make your favorite breakfast on Sundays." The words sounded loving. The tone sounded gentle. But something beneath it felt like a shove disguised as a hug. I swallowed hard. I am fine here. This is my home. Marcus's expression changed. The warmth disappeared. His voice went low and firm. "Henry, you cannot stay here alone. It is irresponsible. If you refuse, we will have to get legal help." Legal help. The words dropped like cold stones in my stomach. I looked at my daughter. She did not raise her voice. She did not threaten me. She did not cry. She just lifted her eyes and said, "Dad, you're coming with us." In that moment, I could have fought. I could have shouted. I could have demanded proof, called neighbors, called anyone. But I was tired. I was tired of feeling watched, judged, and doubted. And the fear that maybe I would forget something important, something dangerous, clawed at my mind until I felt small. So I nodded. They packed my clothes into boxes. They wrapped pictures of Charlotte and me in newspaper. Marcus carried my guitar to the car. I walked around the house slowly, touching the walls as if saying goodbye to a living friend. Every window, every shelf, every dent in the wood held a memory. And I was leaving all of it behind, like someone being escorted out of his own life. At their house, they guided me to a small basement room. It smelled of old carpet and dust. There was a narrow bed, a single dresser, a small window near the ceiling that barely let in light. "This is safe," Marcus said. Safe. There was that word again. For the first time in my life, I unpacked my clothes into a room that did not feel like mine. Lily hugged me once, quick and distracted, then went upstairs. I sat on the bed with my hands folded and listened to the house above me. Their footsteps, their voices, their laughter. No one asked if I wanted tea. No one asked if I was comfortable. No one sat with me. I was not forced out with yelling or aggression. I was not thrown on the street. They did it with soft voices, calm smiles, and the quiet certainty that I had no strength left to fight them. I left my home that day without a single suitcase of dignity. And the worst part was that everyone around us thought they were rescuing me. They were not rescuing me. They were burying me alive. The basement became my world. Days and nights blended together in a dim space that felt more like a storage closet than a bedroom. The small window near the ceiling barely offered light, just a slice of sky that never fully changed. I used to wake up to sunshine drifting through the curtains in my own home. Now I woke up to footsteps above me and the hollow feeling that I was no longer living a life, just borrowing space in someone else's house. At first, I tried to keep a routine. I folded my blankets every morning, wrote notes to remind myself which day it was, read old books from the shelf they placed beside my bed. But each day I felt myself slipping deeper into a kind of quiet sadness I had never known before. The isolation was not loud. It was silent, too silent. They kept the basement door locked at night. They told me it was for my safety, because I might wander and fall on the stairs. Every time I heard that lock click, something inside me felt smaller. It was the sound of a prison made of soft words and family concern. Sometimes I heard them talking upstairs. My name floated in the air like I was a problem to solve. Did he take his medicine? Make sure he doesn't answer the phone. He keeps asking questions. Just be patient. They spoke about me like I was not human, only responsibility. One evening I climbed the stairs and found the basement door locked from the outside. I knocked once, then twice. When Marcus finally opened it, he looked annoyed. "What do you need, Pop?" "I just want to sit upstairs." He folded his arms. "You were confused earlier? It is better you stay down here and rest." "I am not confused." He stared at me for a few seconds, then closed the door again. The lock clicked. I sat on the top step for a long time, staring at the wood, listening to the muffled sound of plates and silverware. A family dinner, my daughter, my son-in-law, a meal upstairs, laughter, conversation. I used to sit at that table. Now I was below them, forgotten. That night, something broke inside me. I went back to my room, sat on the edge of the bed, and held the photograph of Charlotte. Her smile looked warm and alive. I pressed my forehead against the frame and whispered, "I do not know how to get out of this." The days grew heavier. They took my phone. They took the keys to my truck. The mail stopped coming to me, though I never asked where it went. I was a guest in my own life, waiting for permission to exist. Sometimes I replayed my memories, trying to prove to myself that my mind was still mine. I remembered history lessons I taught, the names of my students, conversations with Lily when she was little. I remembered every detail of the house Charlotte and I built, the way she laughed while painting the walls, the way she held her coffee with both hands on cold mornings. My memory was not failing. My world was. One afternoon, I sat in the basement, listening to the washing machine rumble through the walls. I stared at my hands, old but steady. I realized this was the first time in my life I had ever felt powerless. Not because I was weak, but because no one believed me anymore. And if no one believes you, you become invisible. Rock bottom is not a fall. It is a place where you sit quietly, wondering when someone will notice you never stood back up. And in that loneliness, I finally understood. If I wanted my life back, I could not wait for rescue. I would have to rescue myself. Rock bottom does something to a person. It pushes your mind to the edge, and when you finally stop drowning in fear, you start listening to your instincts again. Mine came back one quiet morning when the house was still asleep. I woke before sunrise. I could hear nothing but the soft hum of the refrigerator upstairs and the distant ticking of the living room clock. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the closed basement door. A simple thought came to me. If they are not telling the truth about me, what else are they lying about? For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than defeat. Determination flickered like a small flame. When I heard Marcus leave for work and Lily step into the shower, I walked up the stairs. The basement door was unlocked, probably because they assumed I was still asleep. I moved slowly, quietly. like a stranger in my own daughter's home. The house looked different from above, organized, polished, comfortable. My life was happening only on the floor below. I checked the kitchen first. Nothing. Then the living room. Bills and envelopes stacked neatly on the counter, all addressed to me, unopened. Every piece of mail I had not received. I picked one up. Electricity bill? Paid. Another? Insurance renewal? Paid. A bank statement. I opened it, hands trembling. Large transfers, withdrawals, payments I did not recognize. My name on every document. A cold shiver went through me. Just as I was about to take another envelope, I heard Lily's voice in the hallway. "Dad, why are you up here?" I turned. She stood in her robe, hair dripping, eyes wide, not worried, terrified. "I was looking for my mail," I said. "You should have asked. Marcus has been handling that for you." Her voice was too fast, too rehearsed. "I never told him to," I said. She swallowed hard. "Dad, you do not remember. You told him months ago that you cannot manage things anymore." There it was. The script. The story they had been building around me, piece by piece. I stepped closer. "Lily, I remember everything, and I remember never asking anyone to take my mail." Before she could respond, Marcus's car pulled into the driveway. Lily rushed past me, whispering, "Please, Dad, go downstairs. Do not start anything." She was not concerned for me. She was scared of him. That fear told me more truth than any document could. I pretended to obey. I went down the stairs, closed the basement door, and waited. I stood there silently, ear against the wood. The front door opened. Marcus's voice. "Why was he up here?" "Lily, he was just looking for something." "Marcus, he is slipping, Lily. We need to move faster." Move faster. For what? My pulse hammered in my chest. I backed away from the door and looked around the basement, desperate for answers. My eyes landed on a small metal filing cabinet in the corner. Old, dusty, locked. I searched the dresser drawers and found a thin metal nail file. It took several minutes of shaking hands, deep breaths, and quiet clicks before the lock finally popped. Inside, there were papers. Dozens. Legal forms, bank transfers, a printed email with my name falsified on it, a power of attorney draft stating that I had willingly handed control to Marcus and Lily. My signature was forged. Sloppy, but close enough to fool someone who did not know me. I sat on the cold floor with those documents spread around me. For weeks I thought I was losing my memory. For weeks I thought I was the problem. But in that moment, I realized the truth. They were not helping me. They were taking everything from me. And for the first time, I stopped feeling confused. I felt angry. Quiet, steady, clear anger. I gathered the documents, hid them under my mattress, and told myself one thing. They may have dragged me into that basement, but I was going to walk out. Awakening does not happen in a dramatic burst. It starts quietly, like a slow breath after being underwater too long. The morning I found those forged documents, something inside me shifted from fear to clarity. I was no longer doubting myself. I was doubting them. For the first time since they moved me into the basement, I walked to the bathroom mirror and looked at my reflection with new eyes. I did not see a fading man. I saw a man who had been tricked into believing he was weak. My mind was still sharp. My memory was intact. My instincts had been right all along. When Lily brought breakfast downstairs, I sat up straight and looked her in the eyes. "Thank you," I said, with a calmness that even surprised me. She smiled softly, but something flickered in her expression. She expected the broken version of me, the one who apologized for existing. But I was done apologizing. After she left, I pulled the documents from under the mattress and studied every signature, every date, every false statement. I wrote down times, amounts transferred, banks involved. My handwriting was steady. My thoughts were organized. It felt like my mind, once buried under doubt, had snapped back into place. When Marcus came home that evening, he walked down to the basement with the same confident smirk he always wore, holding a small bottle. "Time for your medicine, Pop." He handed me 2 pills in a paper cup. I rolled them in my palm. "What are these?" I asked. "Something to help you sleep. You get restless." "I slept fine last night." Marcus chuckled. "You think you did." Before, I would have swallowed whatever he gave me. But now I held his gaze and said, "I'll take it later." His smile thinned. "You need structure, routine, cooperation." I answered calmly, "I know what I need." He stared at me for a long second, trying to figure out whether I was confused or challenging him. He did not like either possibility. That night, I pretended to sleep while the house grew quiet. Around midnight, I heard the basement door open. Light footsteps. Lily's voice whispered, "He is acting different." He looked at me like he knew something. Marcus replied, low and sharp, "He will not be our problem much longer. I have the paperwork ready. As soon as the judge signs off, we put the house on the market." Put the house on the market? My home. The place where Charlotte and I carved our names into wet cement, where Lily learned to ride her bike, where we baked birthday cakes and painted walls sunflower yellow because happiness belonged on the outside too. I felt heat rising in my chest. Not fear, not sadness, determination. The next morning, something inside me truly awakened. I woke before the sun and sat at the small desk, planning. I needed help. Real help. Someone who would listen, someone they could not manipulate. The name came to me like a gift. Dr. Eleanor Hughes, Charlotte's closest friend, a respected neurologist, a woman whose intelligence filled every room she walked into. I had not spoken to her in years, but if anyone could test me honestly and prove I was mentally sound, it was her. I waited until Lily and Marcus left for work. As soon as the car pulled out of the driveway, I grabbed the documents, slipped out the back door, and walked. Slowly at first, then faster, like each step returned a piece of my life. I reached the main road and waved down a cab. When I sat in the back seat and told the driver the address, my voice felt stronger than it had in months. I was no longer sitting in a basement waiting for someone to save me. I was saving myself. The cab ride to Dr. Eleanor Hughes's office felt like driving out of a fog. Every mile between me and that basement made my lungs feel lighter. When we arrived, I sat in the waiting room feeling strangely exposed, like I was doing something dangerous just by being out in the world alone. But this time, I was not hiding. I was reclaiming something. When Eleanor walked out from her office and saw me, her eyes widened. "Henry Lawson. Well, I'll be. You just vanished after Charlotte passed. How are you, old friend?" I tried to smile, but my throat tightened. "I need help," I said. Her face softened. "Come inside." Inside her office, walls lined with books and degrees, I finally spoke the words I had been swallowing for months. "My daughter's husband is trying to take my house. He says I have Alzheimer's. He says I'm losing my mind, and people are starting to believe him." Eleanor leaned forward. "Do you believe him?" I looked at her steadily. "No, my memory is fine, but they've made me doubt myself. They locked me in the basement. They took my mail. They forged documents. I found proof." I handed her the papers I had hidden under my mattress. She scanned every line, eyes narrowing, mouth pressing into a tight line of disgust. "This is fraud. This is criminal." She looked back at me. "Henry, you are not losing your mind. You are being gaslighted." The word hit me like a hammer, because that was exactly what it was. She ran a full set of cognitive tests that morning. Memory recall, logic puzzles, visual recognition, problem solving. I answered every question clearly. My thoughts moved fast. My recall was sharp. When we finished, she sat back in her chair. I could hand these results to any neurologist in the world, and they would all tell you the same thing. You have no signs of Alzheimer's, dementia, or cognitive decline. Quite the opposite. A weight lifted off my chest. Can you put that in writing? She nodded. I will notarize it. And Henry, if you will allow me, I will also testify. Hearing those words, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Power, not anger, not rage. Power in the simple truth. But I was not finished. I knew Marcus. I knew how he operated. If he sensed I was fighting back, he would move faster, twist the story, and drag Lily deeper into his lies. So I kept everything silent. I went to the bank next. With my ID and Eleanor's written confirmation, I accessed my accounts. The banker studied the forged signature and shook his head. We will freeze all transfers immediately. No one touches your money without your consent. Next, I visited a lawyer, a calm, serious man named Richard Hall, who listened without interrupting. By the time I finished telling my story, his jaw was tight. Mr. Lawson, this is financial exploitation and attempted property theft. I will file for immediate injunction to stop the sale of your house. I nodded. Do it quietly. Within hours, the paperwork was filed. I spent the night in a cheap motel, the first place I slept without hearing a lock on a door above my head. In the morning, I called the police and reported identity fraud. They opened a case. Slowly, carefully, every piece of their plan began coming apart. Not with yelling, not with threats, not with dramatic scenes. Just truth, documented and undeniable. For weeks I said nothing to Lily or Marcus. I answered their calls with a calm voice. I told them I was resting at a friend's house. Marcus tried to demand details, but I did not give him any. The silence made him nervous. And when a guilty person becomes nervous, they make mistakes. I waited patiently. The trap they built for me was about to close on them instead. For the first time in months, I woke up without fear. I had a certified medical report, a lawyer, frozen bank accounts, and a police investigation underway. I had proof of my sanity, proof of their lies, proof of their plan. But the most powerful thing I gained was silence. I did not rush home. I did not confront anyone. I waited. People who think they are in control always reveal themselves when they believe no one is watching. On the third day, my phone rang. Lily. Dad, where are you? Marcus said you wandered off. We have been worried sick. There it was, the soft voice, the practiced concern. I am safe, I answered. I needed space. Her tone sharpened beneath the sweetness. You should have told us. You cannot just disappear. I almost laughed at the irony. They disappeared me from my own life for months. Marcus grabbed the phone then. Henry, listen. You cannot run off like that. You need supervision. We are doing everything for your own good. My voice remained calm. Everything is already being handled. He went silent for half a second, just long enough to show he felt the shift. In that tiny pause, I realized he had no idea what I had done. No idea about the lawyer, the doctor, the bank, the police. Good. The next swing came fast. 2 days later, I received a notification from the lawyer. Marcus had filed emergency paperwork claiming I was missing and mentally unstable. He was trying to gain full control of my house and finances immediately. Richard, my lawyer, called me. He panicked, Richard said. He tried to rush the legal process. That is good for us. It shows intent. Intent, a dangerous word for someone who built his entire scam pretending to care. Meanwhile, small things started changing. Marcus called me repeatedly, leaving messages with growing frustration. Call me back. We need to talk. This is getting ridiculous. If you come home now, We can settle this quietly." Every voicemail felt more desperate than the last. I did not return a single call. Lily texted. Short messages at first. "Where are you?" "I miss you." "Please come home." Then longer ones. "Marcus is upset. He says you are being manipulated. Dad, please do not let anyone turn you against us." For the first time, her words were not confident. They were scared. I could tell she felt the ground moving beneath her, and she did not know why. That was when I learned something important. Silence can be louder than shouting. 1 week later, Richard called me into his office. He slid a printed document across the desk. "Marcus tried to transfer the deed of your house into Lily's name using forged signatures. A police report had already been filed. And now," Richard said, "we take this to a judge, quietly, professionally, legally." The hearing date was set. As the court papers were served, Marcus's mask finally cracked. He showed up outside the motel, pounding on the door, yelling through the wood. "Henry, open this door, right now. You do not know what you're doing." I stayed silent. He kept shouting until a neighbor threatened to call the police. His voice was no longer calm or caring. It was angry, frantic, afraid. That was the first time I realized something important. Marcus was not scared of losing me. He was scared of losing control. The next morning, Lily called again, her voice trembling. "Dad, Marcus said you turned a lawyer against us. Is that true?" I took a breath. No. I just finally stood up for myself. Silence, not angry, not defensive, just silence. In that silence, I felt something powerful. For months, they controlled the narrative. Now they could not predict my next move. Their story was falling apart, and for the first time, they were the ones afraid. The courthouse was colder than I remembered, not in temperature, but in atmosphere. People whispering, shoes clicking on polished floors, attorneys carrying folders, families waiting with nervous eyes. I sat on a wooden bench near the entrance, hands clasped, breathing slowly. I was not the same man who stood here months ago, scared and silent. I was steady. I had evidence. I had truth. When Lily and Marcus walked through the doors, they froze. Lily looked pale, worried. Marcus looked annoyed, like my presence was an inconvenience. He walked toward me first, hands in his pockets. "Henry, let's stop this. You're embarrassing yourself. Sign over the house, and we can make everything calm again." I looked him in the eye. "I am not signing anything." He leaned down, lowering his voice. "You have no idea what you're doing." I replied calmly, "I know exactly what I am doing." For the first time since I met him, Marcus had no comeback. Inside the courtroom, the judge asked everyone to take their seats. Lily sat next to Marcus, eyes glassy, fingers twisted together in her lap. I wondered if she knew how deep Marcus had taken her into this. Maybe she did. Maybe she did not want to see it. Their lawyer stood and spoke with exaggerated politeness. "Your Honor, we are here because Mr. Lawson is not mentally fit to manage his property or finances. We have years of signs, confusion, forgetfulness, erratic behavior. For his safety, we ask for authority to handle his affairs." The judge nodded and turned to me. "Mr. Lawson, do you have anything you'd like to say before we review the evidence?" I stood slowly. My voice did not shake. "Yes, Your Honor, I would." The room went quiet. I looked at my daughter first. "Lily, I love you. I never stopped loving you. I believed you when you said you would take care of me someday. But I did not ask you to take my life away." She blinked hard, tears forming. Then I turned to the judge. "I have been locked in a basement. My mail was hidden. My bank accounts were accessed without my consent. They told everyone I was sick, so no one would believe me." Marcus scoffed loudly. "Here we go again." The judge raised a hand. "Let him speak." I continued. They said I gave them my cards. I didn't. They said I lost my memory. I didn't. What I lost was my freedom." Their lawyer interrupted quickly. "Your Honor, these are emotional accusations with no medical backing." And that was the moment everything shifted, because the courtroom doors opened. Everyone turned as Dr. Eleanor Hughes walked in, wearing her white coat, holding a binder and a sealed envelope. She approached the stand with confident steps. "Your Honor, I am Dr. Eleanor Hughes, board-certified neurologist. I have conducted extensive cognitive testing on Mr. Lawson. He shows no signs of Alzheimer's, dementia, or cognitive decline." Marcus stiffened. The color drained from Lily's face. Eleanor continued, her voice clear. "His memory and cognitive reasoning scores place him in the 99th percentile. In fact, his IQ classification is categorized as near genius level. These forged medical documents claiming decline are fraudulent." Gasps filled the room. The judge leaned forward. "Forged?" Eleanor opened the binder. "This is Mr. Lawson's real signature, and this is the signature on the power of attorney transfer Marcus attempted to file. They do not match. Additionally, we have bank records showing attempted unauthorized transfers." Marcus jumped to his feet. "This is ridiculous." The judge slammed his gavel. "Sit down." Lily covered her face, sobbing quietly. Marcus stared ahead, frozen, his confidence shattered. I remained silent, calm, steady. The truth had spoken for me. The judge looked directly at Marcus and Lily. "This is no longer a petition for guardianship. This is a criminal matter. Bailiff, hold Mr. Cooper for questioning." Marcus's eyes darted wildly. They tried to take my voice, my mind, my home. Now they had to face mine. Courtrooms are usually filled with quiet tension, but after the judge ordered the bailiff to detain Marcus, the silence felt electric. Lily sat frozen, her hands shaking, mascara running down her cheeks. Marcus tried to keep his voice steady, but his fear cracked through every word. "This is a misunderstanding. I was trying to protect him." The judge did not even look at him. "Mr. Cooper, you're being held on suspicion of financial fraud, forgery, coercion, and possible elder exploitation. You will not leave this courtroom until you speak to detectives." The bailiff took him by the arm. For the first time since I met him, Marcus looked small. Not confident, not polished, not charming, just small. But the twist was still coming. Before the judge moved on, Richard, my attorney, stood. "Your Honor, if I may submit one additional document." He handed the judge a sealed envelope. The judge opened it and scanned the contents, his eyebrows raising. "These are property records from the county office," Richard explained. "They show that Mr. Cooper attempted to quietly apply for a fast-track sale of Mr. Lawson's home using falsified medical paperwork and a forged signature. The sale was scheduled for the end of this week." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Even Lily's sobs stopped for a moment. The judge leaned back in his chair. So we were mere days away from Mr. Lawson losing his home permanently. "Yes, Your Honor," Richard confirmed, and the listing agency confirmed Mr. Cooper already accepted an offer. He stood to make a profit of nearly $200,000. Marcus lowered his head. His face went pale. That was the moment the judge's voice changed from controlled irritation to cold anger. "Bailiff, add an additional charge of attempted grand larceny." The courtroom felt like it shifted. A man who had controlled every room he ever walked into was now being walked out in handcuffs. But the twist was not about Marcus going to jail. It was about Lily. While detectives led Marcus away, Lily slowly stood. Her voice was barely audible. "Dad, I did not know. I swear I didn't." The judge addressed her directly. "Mrs. Cooper, evidence shows you signed several documents supporting your husband's claims. Whether you were misled or complicit, the court will determine." Tears rolled down her cheeks. I thought he was helping you. He told me you were losing your mind. He said you forgot conversations. He said you burned the kitchen." The judge turned to me. "Mr. Lawson, would you like to respond?" I stood, but not with anger. My voice stayed calm. "I raised my daughter to be good. I believe she was manipulated. I do not want her punished like a criminal. I just want my life back." The judge nodded, surprised. Given the evidence that Mrs. Cooper played a secondary role and did not financially benefit, the court will release her pending investigation. However, she is barred from contacting Mr. Lawson until further notice. Lily cried harder, covering her mouth with her trembling hands. She looked at me like a child again, needing comfort. But this was not the time. Then came the moment no one expected. Dr. Hughes stepped forward. "Your Honor, in addition to the medical report, Mr. Lawson has agreed to serve as a community lecturer at our local college. His teaching background and cognitive scores make him an excellent candidate. He will not only continue living independently, he will return to contributing to the community." The judge smiled faintly. "Well, Mr. Lawson, it seems you have more than proven your competence." With one final strike of the gavel, the case was dismissed. My rights restored, my home protected, my name cleared. Marcus Cooper left in handcuffs, my daughter left in silence. Justice did not roar. It spoke quietly, with evidence, truth, and dignity. And it belonged to me again. The trial ended, and for the first time in months, I felt oxygen fill my lungs without heaviness. I returned to my house a few days later, escorted by my lawyer and a county officer. Stepping through the front door felt like waking up from a nightmare I did not realize I was living. The sunlight still fell across the kitchen tiles the same way it always had. The smell of old wood and garden soil drifted through the screen door. It was my home, my walls, my life, returned. I spent the first day cleaning the dust from surfaces, watering Charlotte's roses, and hanging fresh curtains. Every small task felt like placing a stolen piece of myself back where it belonged. I slept that night in my own bedroom for the first time in almost 3 months. No locks, no whispers behind closed doors, no basement walls pressing in on me. The next morning, while I was sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee, a car slowly pulled into the driveway. Lily stepped out. She stood beside the car for a long time, staring at me with red, swollen eyes. She looked older than she had just weeks before. Grief and shame age a person fast. I didn't move or speak first. She finally walked toward the porch, her steps small and uncertain. "Dad," she whispered. My chest tightened, not with anger, but with a kind of hurt I could not name. I nodded once, letting her know she could sit if she wanted. She lowered herself onto the porch step rather than the chair beside me. We sat in silence for almost a full minute. "I didn't know," she said, voice shaking. "I swear. Marcus, he said you were getting worse. He said doctors confirmed it. He said we needed to protect you. I thought I was helping you." I stared at my hands, remembering every time she corrected me, every time she let him speak for me, every time she watched me fade without fighting for me. The pain of that betrayal did not go away because she cried, but pain and hate are not the same thing. "I trusted you," I said quietly. "I trusted that if something was wrong, you would see me, not just hear him." Tears fell from her eyes, dripping onto her jeans. "Dad, I should have looked closer. I should have listened to you. I didn't think Marcus would lie. He made everything sound logical." I took a slow breath. Sometimes the most dangerous people don't yell. They speak, softly, and you never see the knife. She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I want to fix this. I don't know how, but tell me what to do." I looked at her, really looked. She was still my daughter, still the girl who used to fall asleep on my chest, still the woman who thought she was doing the right thing, even when she was terribly wrong. "You don't have to fix anything," I said. "You just have to learn from it." She blinked, surprised. "I'm not shutting the door on you, Lily, but I'm not opening it all the way either. Trust doesn't disappear overnight, and it won't come back overnight. We will take small steps, one day at a time." Her shoulders dropped, a mixture of relief and sadness. "Can I visit you?" she asked. "Call you? Check in?" "Yes, but on my terms." She nodded quickly. "Anything you need. Anything." For the first time since all of this began, I saw the real version of my daughter, the one who knew right from wrong, the one who could grow again. When she stood to leave, she hesitated, eyes hopeful. "Can I hug you?" I thought about it. Then I stood and opened my arms. She hugged me tight, like someone trying to hold together what they almost destroyed. But I did not cling back, because forgiveness is not a switch. It is a road. And this was only the first step. Spring arrived early that year. The snow melted faster than usual, revealing the dark soil beneath Charlotte's rose bushes. I spent my mornings kneeling in the garden, trimming stems, placing new soil, tying gentle supports to branches that leaned too far. I had neglected them when I was living in that basement, shut away from sunlight and air. Now they were coming back to life. So was I. Every morning began with freedom. I could wake when I wanted, step onto my porch, drink my coffee, feel the breeze. It sounds simple, but after being locked away, the quiet freedom of choosing one's own morning felt like a privilege. Neighbors started visiting again. They dropped by with casseroles, fresh bread, magazines, or just to sit and talk. I realized something that surprised me. The world had not abandoned me. It was waiting for me to come back. One afternoon, a group of kids from the neighborhood asked if I could help them with their history project. Their teacher told them I used to be the best storyteller in town. We sat at my kitchen table, the same spot where I once helped my daughter build her science fair volcano. I told the kids how people learn to write by carving symbols into clay. Their eyes lit up. That spark reminded me of who I used to be long before Marcus tried to remake me into someone helpless. A week later, I started teaching community workshops at the college. Not full-time, just a few evenings a month. When I walked into the lecture hall for the first time, chalk in my hand, and saw 20 faces waiting for me to speak, something inside my chest opened. I was not just living again. I was contributing. I was needed. One evening after class, I came home and sat on the porch as the sun dipped low across the horizon. Lily's car drove up slowly. She stepped out with 2 cups of hot chocolate. "I remember you used to make this when I couldn't sleep," she said softly. We drank in silence for a moment. She looked healthier, lighter. She had moved out of the house she shared with Marcus, filed for divorce, and started therapy. She was rebuilding too. "I want you to know something," she said. "I didn't believe him because I didn't believe in you. I believed him because I was afraid of losing him. That is a mistake I will never make again." I nodded. Fear can make people blind. She looked at me, eyes steady for the first time in a long time. "I want to be better. I want to earn your trust back, not just ask you to hand it to me." There was no dramatic music, no grand apology, just honesty. That was enough. When she left, the evening felt warm, not because everything was fixed, but because everything had room to grow. Later that night, I walked to the shed behind the house. Charlotte and I had carved our initials into the wooden wall years ago. I touched the faded letters and smiled. "I kept the house, sweetheart," I whispered, "and I kept myself." That was the real victory, not winning in court, not exposing Marcus, not the legal papers or the courtroom gasp. The victory was waking up every day knowing I was still me. They tried to steal my home, my dignity, and my voice. But they never understood something important. Strength is not loud. Strength can whisper. And even a whisper, when backed by truth, is louder than every lie in the world. As the roses bloomed, bright and full, I finally understood that my life was not returning to what it used to be. It was becoming something stronger, a life that no one could take away again.